Episodes 42 and 43 were so good. Well, the Team Flare arc's over. What was happening before the Team Flare arc? Oh yeah, that's right. Ash lost the league. Mother... Hello everybody, Time on the God 3 here, and welcome to a discussion video. A discussion video that is long overdue, and people have probably skipped over this issue already, but I am like an elephant and never forget. So I decided to go ahead and bring this discussion to the topic now that the Team Flare stuff is finally over. I think this is a good time to go ahead and discuss it since X and Y and Z is coming to an end, so now is a better time than any. So, with the Team Flare arc starting up right where we left off in the league with Ash coming in second place to Alon, a lot of people are back and forth over this issue of whether or not it's an issue. Well, some people see this for the negative because, Ash lost, and because he lost, it is him going backwards. But through recent information, we've learned that a league isn't even the next thing in the series. Sun and Moon is actually introducing that Ash will be in school rather than in a league, which eliminates the whole thing altogether. You would think this would actually eliminate the whole Ash doing everything all over again, but in fact, it makes it worse. Why does it make it worse? Well, it adds on to the discussion/rant that I'm about to do. Ash losing is a big deal, and for a lot of people, some people have let it go, some people have gone ahead and let it happen, and for some reasons, it isn't as big of a deal as it should be, but as a fan, I think this is a problem, mostly because it's not just a fan of the XY&Z series, but the series as a whole. So, we're going to break down a couple of things as to why Ash losing this league is a problem, not just for the Sun and Moon reasons, not just for the XYZ reasons, but for the entire series all the way from OG onwards. Ash losing brings a lot of conflicting problems, and while it's not the end of the world that he loses, it is problematic for several reasons. Ever since the series began, Ash made it a goal to defeat the Pokemon League. He's made that goal pretty much clear since the get-go. So, when you have him lose, it brings a sort of disappointment, at least when he lost in the Kanto region, this was. However, this was later rectified as the series got to continue. Since the series got to continue, we were able to continue some storyline, and thus he was able to have another shot at winning again in the Orange Islands, which he did. However, things had continued onward with the Johto region. Since the Orange Islands isn't a video game-like level, with the exception of it kind of being like the Sevi Islands, this was always viewed as non-canon, even though he caught Lapras, Snorlax, and Charizard finally obeyed him in that series. I mean, yeah, I know he released Lapras, but come on now, it's still pretty serious. Regardless, Ash losing was a big deal only because at this point, Ash had lost again in the Johto region, thus facing 2 losses, and then again in the Hoenn region, again in Diamond and Pearl, though he got a higher ranking with top 4 instead of top 8 like he did in the past 2 regions, and then he went back to top 8 in Best Wishes, which was a step backwards, and then in X, Y, and Z, we see that he comes in second place, which is a whopping huge placement for Ash because he's runner-up, but it still brings some problematic things to the picture. When will Ash ever become champion? A lot of people don't think that this is a huge problem only because the series is supposed to be an advertisement for the video games. This wouldn't be so much of an issue for me if it weren't for the fact that they kept using the same characters. The video game doesn't use the same main character each time. Yes, I know the video game is basically supposed to be a reflection of you, but you wind up winning the league in every game, or at least the person who completes the game is supposed to. So, this is why this becomes more or less an issue for me. Because of the fact that they use Ash Ketchum each time rather than switching series like Yu-Gi-Oh! Would do with every Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, this becomes problematic because when you bring Ash into a new series, you bring on all of Ash's trials. Whenever you see Ash with Pikachu, you know the origins of where that Pikachu came from. We, as an audience member, were there to see Pikachu first obtained. We were there to see Ash start off the journey. We were there to see when Ash started everything up. We're the ones that got to see Ash start, so naturally we should be the ones to see Ash finish. This is the same issue that goes with a lot of animes that keep going on forever and ever. Much like One Piece and Dragon Ball and other things like that, it's gotten to the point where either A, the series does come to a conclusion, or B, people just give up on the series and drop it off altogether. The only issue I have with dropping off Pokemon is the fact that they do bring continuity in every now and again, and this is what frustrates me the most. When you bring Ash into the series, that's continuity already. It's from the past series. When you bring Team Rocket into the series, again, continuity. They've been chasing Pikachu since, the very beginning. When you bring in Ash's older Pokemon like they did in the Advanced series, Diamond and Pearl, Unova, again, brings up some problems because then we get to see Ash's older Pokemon and how they play a role into the series because he caught them once before, leaving new audiences questioning where did that Pokemon come from. So when you bring continuity in, you have no choice but to make a canonical series, whether you like it or not. Making an anime means that you don't make something that's just episodic, you make something that's episodic and has a storyline to it. Every episode that Ash goes through, with a huge bulk of them being filler, may be filler that can not be seen and then you watch another episode and something else is obtained, but you always know that there's going to be some form of continuity. For example, if you see Frogadier in one episode, yet Ash has a Froakie in another episode, obviously the episode where he had Froakie takes place before he caught Frogadier, meaning that there's the storyline. That is a new addition to his team only because it evolved from the previous thing that was in his team before. Once you make a storyline, you're sort of entitled to finish it. The reason of such being is if the Pokemon series was doing bad, then it could be justifiable. The series would shut off and there'd be no continuality to the series. However, X, Y, and Z, much like the other Pokemon series, has been doing relatively well and thus continues onwards without a need of it being cut off. It's all due to the fact that Ash is being played as a continual piece, making Ash advance through each series while having him battle off against trainers and use Pikachu as well as other Pokemon. Yes, we do see the need for Ash to use other Pokemon in order to reset the series because he needs to show off those Pokemon as an advertisement. However, when you bring Ash's Charizard back in like Best Wishes, or you have him have flashback episodes like the moment with Caterpie, then you bring on all of the older things that happen in Pokemon, meaning that there's a continuation to the series. For example, when Ash fought Brandon, he brought back Charizard, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle along with Pikachu in order to create his old team. This means that you're bringing the entire past series onto a current series and thus already follows a storyline streamed plot that needs to have more or less a finish. With this new series, Pokemon Sun and Moon out, Ash is going to a school which completely abandons his need to be a Pokemon master and more or less wants him to graduate instead. This is a problem. The reason this is a problem is because if Ash had completed his goal and become first place in the Kalos League, this would be a little bit more justifiable. Now, if we're going into the Kalos region, X, Y, and Z series plot of why Ash should be champion, well, we've got several things going on. Nothing against Alon, but Alon hasn't shown any development through enough of his Pokemon other than Charizard to really justify him winning and defeating Ash. Don't get it wrong, Alon's a really good trainer all of his own. However, Alon himself doesn't seem like the trainer that should have taken the goal, specifically because him being in the Pokemon League was more or less something that came up literally at last minute. He had no desire in order to enter the league. He had a desire in order to fight off the strongest Mega Evolutions, hence the title Strongest Mega Evolutions. So his goal to be Pokemon League champion wasn't even present within the most of the series, so us as an audience member gets cut off when we finally learn that he actually is doing the league. It just doesn't feel right. If he had been doing the league before, then it wouldn't have been justifiable, but at least we would have known that it would have made sense that he was going through the league. Much like Kotetsu, who another person who didn't have a justifiable win, the wins here come sort of out of place, or almost as camp fodder, so that Ash could lose the league because they couldn't find anything strong enough to take Ash out. Alon seemed like the only Pokemon trainer strong enough in order to fight off against Ash. If they were going to do this, they might as well have had a legendary Pokemon trainer out again like Tobias. The problem with Ash being in second and not being in fourth is if he was in fourth, at least we wouldn't have any high expectations. The expectations got a lot higher when they made him in finals and refused to believe who would win. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, they can't reveal everything or spoil everything. What would have been the point of watching it? And this is true. If you spoil something, then you obviously spoil it. There's no point in watching it. However, I can't shake the problem that Ash losing, especially when Greninja didn't face as much damage as Charizard in this battle, sort of alienates your audience. Even during a viewer's perspective of someone who's never seen Pokemon in their life would actually see this as offsetting, is because if they know an anime series, they know that whatever character comes closest to winning and the main protagonist should more or less come out victorious in a huge epic battle such as this. In an epic anime fight like this, usually the hero wins. And I know what you're going to say. Well, Pokemon's different and it's supposed to teach kids that losing is a thing. However, this becomes a problem when you make the same character lose each time. If this were a character that we didn't know, this wouldn't be as bad. At least then we could go in and say, oh yeah, this is a character who's never been in the league before. They're going to learn that losing is a thing that happens as well, and they can pick themselves up and win again in a different series. However, this is Ash we're talking about, someone who's already lost about 4 or 5 times. Why make him lose again? Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, if Ash wins, then that means they have to start the series over. Again, this is false. He won the Orange Islands, and they continued his series onwards as well. Like I said, a lot of people say this isn't canon, but regardless. Let's try a canon league. If Ash had won the Hoenn region, he still would have been curious about the Diamond and Pearl stuff. Just take a look at the video games. How come when you win the Pokemon video games, you get to fight the champion again, as if you didn't just become champion? Why aren't you staying inside of that room all day while challengers go to face you? I'll tell you why. Because you have the option as the champion to not stay there. The reason of such being is because there's several different events in which if you look at the character's text appropriately, they'll actually welcome you back. They know you're already champion. They just think that you want to go on the journey again and that you want to take on the Elite Four and the champion again to challenge yourself. You as a player don't need to necessarily be restricted to the areas you're in. Hell, look at Red. Red was the champion. Did he stick around? No. He actually stayed on Mount Silver in order to wait for other challengers. Now, granted, that's not the place I would have waited. Cold as hell. But regardless, the point is that as a champion, you still have the freedom to go to other places. Hell, do you see Diantha, Cynthia, or Steven Stone staying in one spot? Heavens no. They get to travel to different places. Obviously, Ash would be curious of another league and try to take it as well. The point of this being is that even if they did change the characters, this would alienate a lot of other audience members. If you keep the same character, you're alienating 2 audience members. One, you're alienating the people who are new to the franchise because they don't know who Ash is personally. All they know is that the series starts off with Ash. But they don't know Ash's backstory, not much of his character. This makes him a little more two-dimensional if you don't know truly who he is. While we, the older audience members, the ones who got to see Ash start his journey from day one, get alienated because now we're forced to see Ash start over again, thus making him lose and face defeat for a 6th time, thus alienating old audience members to the point where they don't even want to watch the series anymore, and new audience members don't want to watch the series because they don't have any connections with the main character that's been brought to the series. When a main character is brought to the series, they need proper backstory. Otherwise, things just don't make sense. So, with that said, the attempt to sort of bring an audience member in, new or old, would be completely alienated because Ash is a character that's existed since 1996. So, with all of that being said, Ash should have been able to win, not just because of that, but because of the continuity of how this Ash in this series has fought. Even in episodes 42 and 43 are prime examples of how powerful and competent Ash can be. He fought alongside the champions, Elite Fours, and several other gym leaders, which means that he's more than capable of having the strength in order to take the gold. Another huge factor here is that he fought Diantha twice. The first time wasn't really much of an impact, but the second time he did almost win. He just couldn't fully grasp the power of Ash Greninja. This means that Ash more or less had enough strength necessary to claim his victory, but the writers decided to cut him short, which is unfortunate. So, with all of this being said, basically with Ash losing, it is a big deal, not just for the series, but as a fan. As a fan, we wanted to see Ash reach his conclusion, and making him go to a school more or less just feels like a cop-out way so that he doesn't have to face this problem yet again. I'm mixed feelings on Sun and Moon, and I'm still going to give it the benefit of the doubt by giving it 5 episodes to watch before I give it a true rating. But as of now, Ash lost out, and it sort of makes things hard for me to really see how the series would continue. But with that said, what are your thoughts on Ash losing? I'll see you all then, everybody. Tyrone the Guy 3 out.